Hi and welcome to the Ruby Tuesday. My name is Ruben and this is my review for Nightflyers, a sci-fi original now on Netflix. This is how my reviews work. I give a short synopsis, then I talk about what I liked and what I did not like before giving my rating and fact at the end. Let's jump into the review. Nightflyers is based on a George R.R. Martin short novel. It's set in a future. A crew of explorers have to journey into the void of space in a very advanced ship, the Nightflyer. Their mission is making first contact and intercepting a mysterious alien spacecraft that could hold the key to the survival of the human race. You know, that old chestnut. As they travel deeper into space and get close to their destination, they discover that the ship's artificial intelligence and the hardly seen captain may be steering them into dangers unknown. Ooh. What I like. I'm a sucker for sci-fi. I love me some sci-fi, and I think at times I definitely have a blind spot when it comes to sci-fi. Because when it comes to the science fiction of space, I'm there. I love it. However, that being said, Nightflyers for me was a bit of a mixed bag. As I said before, this is actually a sci-fi original series, so most of the US has seen the series already, but as for the rest of the world, this is basically an original because the only other place you can see it, all 10-hour long episodes of it, is on Netflix. Thankfully, Netflix gave us a few episodes ahead of time, thank you for that, so that when it was released we could watch the rest, and now we have the review for you. So let's deal with what I liked about this series. I really like the genres that the series pulls from. The first episode sets up the world of the Nightflyer very quickly as the opening opens with a horrific element. It's basically something is happening to them in the future, and immediately as you watch it, you are going to be hit with feelings of, this reminds me of Event Horizon. It could in fact be said that if Event Horizon were to be turned into a TV series, it might have something similar to this story. It might be something similar to the Nightflyer. I'm a huge fan of Event Horizon actually. I remember sitting in a small cinema in London with my heart in my throat as I scared myself silly watching that film. I scared the crap out of myself. It was great. And the Nightflyer does have a lot of that. It definitely draws from the horror sci-fi genre in that aspect. The way it is filmed is also another tick in the right direction. Not only do the locations of the ship's inner workings feel real, but some of the more outlandish science fiction tech seem to be somewhat believable. Well, enough for me to suspend my disbelief and say, well, that was cool. I guess that could happen. Mostly. Then there's the characters themselves. There's a cornucopia of great actors and actresses in this series. I'm not so sure the characters themselves are defined enough, but the actors in them nonetheless are quite good. Some of these characters I think you will come to totally love and get why they're in there, and some really fit into the story, some not so much. One in particular, actor Sam Strike, who plays Thale, I felt like his character often carried the series. His scenes have most weight to them. The more I saw of him in each episode, the more I thought, man, I wish there was a series about him. I want to know about his past, about his present, about his future. That's a story I would really like to know about. There were other characters I really loved as well, like Lomi. Her character arc was really interesting to me, very well acted. There was always something going on behind her eyes, like her character's past has some inner turmoil that she has always been fighting against. This is evident in some of the other characters as well, which I think speaks to the quality of the actors and the strength of the dialogue and script at times. Although I think in this case it's more on the actors' abilities of how well they portray their characters, not really the script or dialogue. There are episodes that I thought were better than others, that worked more to advance the plot of the series as a whole. And even when the arc puts on a hold to develop some of the backstories on non-main characters, I was intrigued because of the idea of the main plot. I had no idea where it was going, and I thought to myself, what's gonna happen? And on that note, let's talk about what I did not like. It was about halfway through I felt that the series was starting to drag. Not because it wasn't interesting or the fact that the side plots were boring. No, I was actually really enjoying the series. There are in fact a lot more positives I could talk about. The cinematography I thought looked good, the VFX, the SFX, the score, all good. But halfway through my wife and I realized, and I hoped we were wrong, that this was one of those sci-fi series that was going to leave us with a lot of questions unanswered in the end. And as each episode finished and we got nearer and nearer to the end of the series, our assumptions were realized. To say I felt let down by the end of this series would be a massive understatement. I literally said out loud, "Screw you, man, screw you."
That's it, man. Game over, man. Game over.
And then my wife and I chatted, discussing amongst ourselves what we thought happened, what we thought should have happened, trying to come up with some of the answers that we thought the series should have answered. Now, I know sometimes a series or a film doesn't need to have all the answers. It can leave it unopened or unanswered. There are films that I can remember thinking, well, at least now I get to figure out for myself. But sometimes some series need to say, hey, this is where it's going, this is what it's done, and this is what happened. And I feel like this is one of those, and it didn't answer a plethora of questions that we had. There were even times when the series suggested certain things about certain characters that it never answered. For me, this was very frustrating. It was a very frustrating series because I felt like there were moments of genius that I really liked, and I thought that was cool. I liked the way they did that. The story could have been amazing. Instead, I felt like it was all over the place and quite a mess, which is weird because I really love some of the characters, some of the cinematography, etc. That was not the only thing that I had issues with. I said the VFX was great for the most part, but there was one point where both my wife and I burst out laughing, saying, "What was that? Don't let that be them." Because what we were seeing on screen, it felt like the VFX wasn't complete, and I think it was, which means maybe the design was really weird. And then there's horror moments, which I liked for the most part, but every single time the jump scares occurred with the horror elements, there would be times with loud music, and it boggled my brain because of why they were doing this. It's an old trope that really bad horror films use to justify the suspense that they're trying to create. If they had just let the horror scenes speak for themselves, I feel like it would have been scarier. It would have built up more tension, but instead you get these moments where tensions are building and bam, you were hit with a loud bit of horror score, as well as somebody or something jumping out around the corner, or something gory and nasty happens, but it has to be accompanied with a loud bit of score. You know, ring, ring. For example, if you saw a small child in the background of a shot just walk by really quickly, your brain would say, wait, what did I just see there? Daddy? And then it would build the tension. It would go along nicely to setting up further scenes that would be creepier, and with score and music timed right, that I've seen done right in films like Event Horizon, this works really well. But if you add those noises, it just kind of sets up a trope. And if you do it every single time with a jump scare, it just gets old. And I was really annoyed with this mechanic that we're using throughout the series. If it had been once or twice, but it just kept happening, and I was like, oh, why are you doing this? I don't need that. Build it legitimately. And that's my rant over. Did you know there is a scene where a video call is being made to Earth? The character in question throws something at the screen, and the woman on the video call reacts. They are thousands of light years away, and she should not have reacted because that would have not have been possible at all. Too far away to have a video to video conference call live. It's not Skype in space, and that was an odd choice to leave that scene in there. I really love the idea of this series and some of the characters, but ultimately, because of how it ended and the nonsense it ultimately became as a whole, as the series in a whole, I'm gonna give it a D, which I found really hard. I did contemplate giving it a C, but the more I think about it, the more it irritates me. Thanks for watching my review of Nightflyers. Do you agree with me? Did you maybe love the series? Let me know in the comments below. That is your place to chat to your heart's content about this, and I will always try to chime in as well, as long as it's kept civil. I have a number of other reviews headed your way, like Velvet Buzzsaw and Always a Witch. Also Russian Doll, which dropped today. That review is already out. So if you'd like to see those, consider hitting that subscribe button and bell. And thank you so much for your continued support. I really do appreciate it. And until next time, remember, live long and Tuesday.